In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, But this narrative is not about the prophet in the city of Jerusalem. Rather, it unfolds in the distant land of Midian, under the expansive desert sky where Moses, a humble shepherd, tends the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting an orange hue across the rugged mountains, Moses feels a familiar ache within his heart, a longing for his people, the Israelites, who suffer in the chains of slavery in far-off Egypt and the solitude of the wilderness. Each bleat of his sheep echoes the cries of his brethren. The night winds whisper memories of his past life as an Egyptian prince, now nothing more than a fugitive escaping the burden of his once rash act of violence. The weight of his failure plagues him. He feels powerless to alter the course of his people's suffering. On one fateful day, while leading his flock to a remote pasture near Mount Horeb, an extraordinary sight captures his attention. A bush ablaze with flames flickers before him, and yet, the bush remains unconsumed, as if nature itself has bent to obey the command of the divine. Intrigued, Moses steps closer, drawn by an otherworldly presence. Suddenly, a voice calls from within the flames deep, resonating, echoing through the wide expanse of the desert. Moses! Moses! In awe and trepidation he answers, Here I am. Do not come near. Take off your sandals, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. The voice commands. In that moment, Moses is wrapped in a holy reverence as he realizes he is in the presence of the God of his ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God unveils his profound plan. Moses is the chosen vessel to lead the Israelites from their oppression in Egypt. Fear and doubt grip Moses like chains. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? He asks, overwhelmed by the enormity of this divine calling. Yet, the Almighty reassures him with the name that will echo through centuries. I am who I am. In these words lies the essence of God's eternal presence and the affirmation of Moses' identity. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Empowered by the presence of God, Moses steps into his destiny, though questions linger in his mind. Will the Israelites believe him? Will they trust in a God they have not seen? With a heavy heart, he walks the desert, feeling the weight of their anguish. Yet, God's promise is clear. He will not let Moses confront Pharaoh empty-handed but will be with him, performing wonders that shall testify to his might as they journey onward. Driven by hope and fear, the mighty plagues strike Egypt, unraveling the pride of Pharaoh and revealing the futility of false gods. In an astonishing act of deliverance, the Red Sea parts, and the Israelites traverse the dry land to freedom, a passage from bondage to blessing. But a new wilderness awaits them, fraught with challenges of reliance and faith. Standing at the foot of Mount Sinai, as the thunder rumbles and the earth trembles with divine majesty, Moses prepares for the covenant that will shape a people. Would they embrace their identity as the chosen? In the stillness that follows, Moses senses the weight of God's calling upon him and the people, an act of transformation that begins their journey as a holy nation, forever intertwined in his divine purpose. As Moses stands before the mountain, the shadows stretch long and the air thickens with expectation. The heavens open, and God speaks a voice like thunder, yet mystifyingly intimate. Say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. The words travel upon reverberating waves, enveloping Moses in their undeniable authority and warmth. Moses feels the urgency in the air. God's resolve echoes like the captivating dance of flames from the burning bush. Go, gather the elders of Israel together, God instructs. Tell them of my covenant, the land flowing with milk and honey, and the promise I made to their forefathers. With each revelation, Moses' heart beats stronger, igniting a fire of hope within. Yet, doubt pricks at his spirit. What if they do not believe him? What if they scoff at the tales of their forefathers? God anticipates his fears, and with gentle firmness, instructs him in signs that shall confirm his calling. He is to cast his staff to the ground, and it shall become a serpent. He is to draw his hand from his cloak and behold the leprosy that turns back whole, a testimony to the power of the Almighty. Still, O Lord, Moses pleads, I am not eloquent. I am slow of speech and of tongue. Yet, God's response is unyielding. Who has made man's mouth? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say. These words become a promise, a steadfast reminder that God equips those he calls. With his heart pounding like a drum within his chest, Moses returns to Jethro, his father-in-law, for his blessing. The old man, a wise shepherd himself, perceives the gravity of Moses' mission. Go in peace, Jethro proclaims, sensing the hand of God upon him, sending Moses forth to reclaim his heritage and purpose. As Moses journeys back to Egypt, the burning desert beneath his feet feels alive with purpose. The weight of history and the cries of Israel entwine with every step he takes, an exodus long overdue. Meanwhile, in the heart of Egypt, the Israelites toil under cruel bondage, their spirits weary, their hope dimming like the flickering oil lamps they huddle around each night. The time draws near for their divine deliverance, a moment when bondage will meet the unfathomable grace of God. Yet, as Moses approaches the gates of the kingdom he once knew, anxiety gnaws at him. What words can bring hope to the hopeless? What power can sway the heart of an obstinate Pharaoh? As he stands before the throne that once welcomed him as son, he recalls God's words in the wilderness. I will harden Pharaoh's heart. A chill runs through him as he contemplates the confrontation that lies ahead. For with every refusal, with every hardened heart, miracles will flow like rivers, each designed to reveal God's glory to Egypt and his people alike. Thus, the path to liberation lies through trials unknown, a series of divine tests that shall display not only God's sovereignty but his enduring faithfulness. Will Pharaoh relent, or will his arrogance unleash the floodgates of heaven's power? As the tension mounts in the hearts of both conqueror and conquered, the world stands at the precipice of an extraordinary revelation. And in this moment, God's great narrative begins to unfurl. For there is still more to come. Darkness will know light, and freedom will dance where chains once dwelt. For what she did not yet know was this: the plagues were not merely judgments. They were God's resounding declarations of his unmatched authority, transforming a nation and birthing hope in the hearts of his people. And so it was, as Moses entered the land of Egypt, the weight of his calling pressed heavily upon him. The air brimmed with apprehension as he remembered the majesty of his God, a God who had revealed his name, yet a God who would now reveal his might. Moses meets with the elders of Israel in secret and shares the words of the Almighty. I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt. As he speaks, their eyes widen in disbelief, yet the ember of hope stirs within them. For Moses speaks of the promise of a land flowing with milk and honey, and their hearts tremble with anticipation. How long they have waited! But even hope mingles with fear, for the memory of Pharaoh's cruelty lingers like a dark cloud. What shall we say when he asks for proof? One elder asks, doubt pulling at his spirit. What if Pharaoh hardens his heart against us? But Moses stands firm, bolstered by the very assurance that vibrated in the silence of the burning bush. Behold, he tells them, the Lord God of your fathers has visited us and will deliver us from the hand of the Egyptians. With each proclamation, the assurance of God's presence wraps around them, a silken thread of promise. And as they bow their heads in reverence, the elders declare, let it be so. Moses then prepared for the audience with Pharaoh, a daunting task that lay ahead. He recalled the signs given by God, the serpent and the leprous hand, and they filled him with a quiet confidence. Yet, when he stepped into the hallowed halls of the mighty Pharaoh, his heart raced like a wild horse. Let my people go, Moses declared, his voice steady but not without trepidation. The magnificent throne room, adorned in gold and splendor, bore an air of defiance as Pharaoh looked upon him, eyes filled with the certainty of his dominion. Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? Pharaoh scoffed, displaying the arrogance of a man emboldened by power. I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go. Moses felt a stirring of divine resolve within him. He remembered the Lord's words. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. The tension escalated as Moses, in obedience, cast his staff to the ground, and it transformed into a serpent, striking fear into the heart of the king. But lo, Pharaoh summoned his wise men and sorcerers, and they duplicated the miracle, their serpents swallowing Moses' own. A heavy silence enveloped the throne room. Moses' heart sank, but he recalled God's promise. With a voice echoing the promises of heaven, he declared, "The hand of the Lord will be against you." As the air thickened with divine anticipation, the very fabric of creation awaited the unfolding of God's power to liberate his people from bondage. Pharaoh's heart grew harder, yet Moses was steadfast, fortified by the truth of God's purpose. A miraculous event will happen, and you will know that I am the Lord. With each confrontation, as darkness encroached the hearts of men, light was preparing to break forth. For in the midst of this brewing storm, as plagues waited at the threshold, something miraculous was emerging, a clash not only between ruler and servant, but between heaven and earth, a testament that would echo through ages. For what they did not yet comprehend was that this conflict was only the beginning, for soon, eyes would behold wonders that would bind the hearts of men, and declare with thunderous might that the eternal is to be revered. And so, with every hardened heart and every flowing tide of despair, the world stood at the threshold of divine revelation, waiting for the unmistakable sign that God's great covenant was unfolding, a sign that would carve their names into the annals of freedom and faith. And the Lord spoke to Moses again, saying, Go unto Pharaoh, and you shall say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. Moses' resolve was renewed, and he faced Pharaoh once more, the weight of divine message resting heavily upon his shoulders. Let my people go, he declared with unwavering faith, standing as an instrument of God's will in the midst of regal opulence and regal pride. Yet again, Pharaoh's heart was hard. I will not release them, he proclaimed defiantly. In that moment, the air around them crackled with impending judgment, for the time of the Lord's mighty works had come. Behold, Moses warned, lifting his staff, if you refuse to let them go, I will smite the waters of Egypt with the rod that is in my hand, and they shall be turned to blood. As the words left his lips, a shuddering knowledge coursed through him that he stood at the precipice of God's display of power. Pharaoh cast a scornful glance, unyielding in his defiance. For I know the strength of my gods, and I will not yield to the demands of the Israelites. Yet, little did he realize, the patience of the Almighty was a river ready to flood over. And at the precise hour appointed by the Lord, Moses struck the waters of the Nile. The river groaned as the waters turned to blood, and all the fish died, and the river stank. It became a horror to the Egyptians, for they could not drink of the water, and the panic swept through Egypt like a consuming fire. Yet, still Pharaoh's heart remained unmoved. His magicians conjured their dark arts, duplicating the miracle before him, and Pharaoh, still stubborn, returned to his palace, untroubled by this great sign from God. Days passed, and with every sun that rose and set, the people of Israel watched as the miseries of Egypt deepened. The Lord instructed Moses, Go back to Pharaoh and tell him, If you do not let my people go, tomorrow I will bring frogs upon the land. Moses proclaimed the word of the Lord, and soon a thick cloud of frogs covered the land, entering homes, filling kitchens, and even overwhelming their beds. The cry of the people rose like a chorus of agony. And again, Pharaoh called upon Moses and Aaron, beseeching them, Pray to the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me, and I will let the people go, that they may sacrifice to the Lord. But once the plague had lifted, Pharaoh's stubbornness returned, and his heart was hardened. Each time the Lord smote the land, and each time Pharaoh defaulted on his promise, the tension grew, a heavy curtain drawn across the theater of divine justice unfolding before them. With each new plague, the gnats, the flies, the cattle disease, and the boils, a new lament echoed throughout Egypt. yet redemption seemed far from grasp. The Israelites watched, their spirits yearning for release, their hope flickering like a candle against a strong wind. In that swelling tide of anguish and despair, Moses found himself wrestling with the weight of his mission. And yet within that turmoil, the whisper of the Almighty reassured him, "I will redeem my people. My purpose will be fulfilled." For what was about to be revealed was not merely a clash of kings, but the unfolding of a divine story, rich with salvation's tapestry. God was shaping a nation, one tested in fire and refined through suffering. And the hearts of men could not yet see the promises that lay just beyond the darkened horizon. For the cries of the oppressed were rising like incense before the throne of heaven, igniting the flame of God's unending covenant pledge. The path to freedom was wrought with sacrifice, yet soon all would know that the Lord is God, and his promises shall not be thwarted. Thus, a new chapter awaited on the horizon, for the time had come for God's power to reveal itself in a way that would etch his name in eternity. The world stood at the edge, peering into the depths of God's sovereign plan, longing for the dawn of liberation. And the Lord said to Moses, "Go unto Pharaoh, for I will send yet another plague upon the land of Egypt. Locusts shall cover the face of the earth, and there shall not be a trace left of what the ground produced." Moses, with his heart heavy, approached Pharaoh once more, the weight of the impending judgment pressing down upon him. "Thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. For if you refuse, locusts shall come and consume every green thing that remains." The severity in Moses' voice echoed, a testament to the wrath that awaited should Pharaoh remain obstinate. But Pharaoh, hardened still, summoned his advisers, who counseled him against yielding to Moses' demand. "Will our gods not save us?" he scoffed. It was a defiance laced with desperation, a king ensnared by pride. Yet as the sun bore witness, the sky darkened with the swarm of locusts, a living testament to the Almighty's promise. As the locusts descended, they blanketed the land like a shroud, consuming the remnants of crops and leaving Egypt barren and desolate. The cries of despair rose from every household, a cacophony of regret and pleading. Pharaoh, overwhelmed by the devastation, called for Moses and Aaron. "I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Pray to the Lord that he may take away the locusts from me, and I will let you go." Moses prayed, and the winds obeyed, carrying the locusts away towards the sea. In the silence that followed, hope rekindled briefly in the hearts of the Israelites, but just as swiftly, the moment of grace slipped away. For the Lord, knowing Pharaoh's heart, let it harden once more. Once again, the cycle of promise and despair repeated, echoing throughout the chambers of Egypt's throne. The Lord instructed, "Go unto Pharaoh that I may bring darkness over the land, a darkness that may be felt." With a heavy heart, Moses declared, "If you refuse to let my people go, there will be a darkness over the land of Egypt, and it will be deep as night. No man will see his brother, nor rise from his place for 3 days." The darkness fell as a heavy cloak. It enveloped the Egyptians in a tangible gloom, oppressing their spirits and rendering their gods impotent. Yet the children of Israel had light in their dwellings, a divine favor granting them sight in the midst of despair. Pharaoh, in anguish, summoned Moses, "Go serve the Lord, but let your flocks and herds remain." Moses answered resolutely, "We will take our livestock with us, for we know not what sacrifices we will need to offer to the Lord." Frustration contorted Pharaoh's face, and he retorted, "Get you gone from me. Take heed to yourself, see my face no more, for in the day you see my face you shall die." With grace and authority, Moses responded, "You have spoken well. I will never again see your face." As he departed, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Yet I will bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterward he will let you go, and when he drives you away he will cast you out completely." In this cadence of obedience and defiance, the Israelites began to see the threads of God's sovereign plan weave closer together. They did not know that soon the blood of the Lamb would mark their doorposts, and salvation would be at hand. The promise was unfolding, and the shadows of despair would soon give way to the dawn of hope. What mighty act of God awaited them, destined to shake the very foundations of the earth. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Yet one more plague will I bring upon Egypt, and afterward he shall let you go. For I will strengthen his heart, that he shall not let my people go until the full measure of my judgment is fulfilled. Moses turned to the children of Israel and declared, Behold, the Lord speaks. At midnight I will go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. The weight of this prophecy fell over the gathering, heavy with the dread of the impending night, just as the darkness had enveloped their oppressors. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be any more. The severity of God's proclamation hung in the air, stirring hearts to tremble, yet among the Israelites, there was an acknowledgment of divine deliverance approaching. Moses continued, But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. With fervent assurance, he emphasized the protective hand of God upon his chosen people, and a flicker of hope ignited among weary souls. Pharaoh's advisers, plagued by fear, warned him of the dire need to relent. Yet he staunchly dismissed their counsel, his heart sealed in defiance. So resolute was his pride that he did not see the shimmering truth before him. The God of Israel was not merely a deity of men, but the Creator who brought forth life and delivered judgment. As the days drew to a close, the Lord instructed Moses, Speak unto the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. Moses obeyed, the significance of the lamb piercing the hearts of those gathered. You shall take a bunch of hyssop, he instructed, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin. His voice rang with urgency, When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. The solemnity of these words echoed in the hearts of the faithful as they prepared to mark their doorposts, an act of obedience that would transform their fate. And it shall come to pass, that when the children of Israel shall ask, What mean ye by this service? That ye shall say, It is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians, and delivered our houses. As anticipation hung thick in the air, the cries of the Egyptians grew noticeably louder, a foreboding sound of sorrow preparing to echo through the land. The Israelites reclined in faith, knowing deliverance was near. And in the depths of the chamber of Pharaoh, the bitter winds of despair began to howl, as God's sovereign plan set into motion a great and terrible night. The dawn was to rise not upon death, but upon a path of extraordinary promise, leading to unshackled freedom and divine grace. But what transformation awaited the people as they stood between the burdens of bondage and the liberation of the Lamb? And it came to pass, at the appointed hour, that the darkness deepened over the land of Egypt, growing thick and heavy like a shroud of mourning draped across the homes of the unyielding. The clock of destiny struck midnight, and the Lord moved among the dwellings of men, his shadow casting a profound silence dread upon the Egyptians. Moses, having instructed the people with urgency, stood among the Israelites, a beacon of faith. He saw them gathered in their homes, the blood-stained doorposts gleaming with the promise of protection. The Lamb, pure and without blemish, lay slain. Its sacrifice would echo through the ages as a symbol of hope. The hearts of the faithful trembled in expectation, their eyes directed to the heavens, waiting for the fulfillment of God's word. And the voice of God resonated in that sacred night, a voice mighty and unyielding. I will execute judgment upon all the gods of Egypt, he proclaimed, for I am the Lord. As the words departed his lips, a wail erupted from the homes of the Egyptians, fierce and terrifying, as though the very spirit of despair inhabited the air. Pharaoh awoke in anguish, bewildered by the sudden grief sweeping over his household. The firstborn of his house lay lifeless, and with him, a sorrow that pierced the heart of Egypt. He rushed into the night, driven by a fear that was tangible, striking at the core of his soul. In the abyss of his rage and suffering, He found no solace, leaving his chambers a cacophony of despair. The Israelites, however, remained indoors, hearts uplifted in prayer. They shared whispers of deliverance, celebrating the sacrifice, singing hymns of praise to the Lord. Each family stood under the protection of the covenant, secure in their obedience. The blood on their doorposts symbolized hope, safety, and God's promise, marking them as his redeemed as dawn broke. A pale hue of light pierced the thick darkness, revealing the contrast between two nations. One in mourning, lost in the afflictions of pride and rebellion, the other, rejoicing in the gracious mercy of their deliverer. Moses rose early, and amidst the sounds of mourning outside, he gathered the people, calling them forth to prepare for their exodus from bondage. "Gather your belongings," he urged, "and let us depart from this land of sorrow, for the Lord wills it. He has claimed us as his own, and he shall lead us out of captivity." The voices of the faithful rang out, unwavering, as they responded with vigor. "We shall go. We shall obey. The Lord is our God." Even amidst their haste, the wonder of divine providence filled the air. They gathered their unleavened bread, for there was not time for leavening. They adorned themselves for the journey ahead, their feet poised for liberation. Parents reassured their children, for within their eyes gleamed the hope of a new dawn, a day where the chains of slavery would rust away, and the promises of God would unfurl before them like the first blooms of spring. Then did Moses speak again, his voice firm yet tender. "Remember this day, the day of your deliverance. Let it be a perpetual remembrance among you, and teach your children, that they might declare the works of the Lord, his mercy that spared us, and his mighty hand that brought us forth from Egypt." In that moment, as they prepared to step from the shadows of oppression into the embrace of freedom, a divine whisper fluttered through the crowd, resonating within the hearts of those who believed. But what divine purpose might he reveal on this journey ahead? What wonders yet lie before them? For the path of the righteous leads onward, illumined by the steadfast love of the Almighty. And thus, they moved forward, knowing not the full extent of God's sovereign plan but trusting wholeheartedly in him who delivered them. And it came to pass as Moses led the Israelites forth, the air was thick with an expectancy unspoken, as if the very earth trembled beneath their march. The morning sunlight gleamed upon their shoulders, a testament to the promises of the Almighty. They stepped into the expanse of the wilderness, leaving behind the chains that had bound them for generations. The cries of Egypt echoed in the distance, reminders of what they had left behind. But the Israelites, buoyed by faith, turned their faces toward the horizon, whispering praises unto the Lord, who had freed them from the grip of oppression. Each footfall was a prophecy of deliverance, each breath a reminder of God's unfailing love. "Fear not, for the Lord goes before us," Moses declared, his voice rising above the murmurs of the crowd. "He will guide us to the land he has promised, a land flowing with milk and honey." The people rejoiced, invigorated by the hope of their promised inheritance. Yet, as they journeyed forth, a shadow loomed over their hearts, for the path was fraught with uncertainty. They came to the edge of the Sea of Reeds, its waters vast and seemingly insurmountable. Panic began to sweep through the families, and whispers of despair rose among the throngs. "What shall we do? Have we been led here to perish?" they cried, their faith wavering like a flickering candle in the twilight. Moses raised his hands, imploring the people to be still. "Do not be afraid. The Lord will fight for us. We need only to be still," he reminded them, recalling the faithfulness of God who had brought them thus far. In that moment, the heavens seemed to pause, holding its breath in profound anticipation. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea. Divide it, and the Israelites shall go through the midst of the sea on dry ground." The command resounded, echoing among the mountains, a chorus of divine authority piercing the hearts of the faithful. With trembling hands but a resolute heart, Moses obeyed, extending his staff over the water. And behold, the winds of the Lord swept across the sea, parting the waters with a might that no mortal strength could summon. A pathway emerged, wide and dry, glistening under the brilliant sun, stretching forth like an invitation to new life. "Come, the way is clear," Moses exclaimed, filled with renewed fervor. As the waves towered like mighty walls on either side, the Israelites stepped forth, each step a testament of faith and obedience. The ground beneath them was firm, a stark contrast to the tumult that swirled above. The sound of rushing waters faded, replaced by the thundering of hearts that beat with hope. Yet in the shadows, Pharaoh's heart hardened anew, contempt rising within him. He called forth his chariots, declaring, "Pursue them, for they are trapped between the desert and the sea. They shall be ours once more." The chariots thundered through the sands, sowing fear among the fleeing Israelites. But God, in his sovereign purpose, looked down upon the Egyptian forces. "I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord," he declared, as confusion descended upon the approaching chariots. The wheels of their chariots slipped in the mud, hindering their progress as terror gripped their hearts. The Israelites, now crossing in haste, felt the tremors of goddess might, a presence that filled them with courage. They reached the other side as dawn began to break, the light illuminating the way of deliverance they had traversed. But as the last of the Israelites stepped onto dry land, the Lord instructed Moses once more, saying, "Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians." And as Moses obeyed, the waters crashed down like the fury of divine judgment, engulfing the army that had pursued them relentlessly. As the waves settled, silence fell over the sea, and a great awe filled the hearts of the Israelites. They stood in wonder, gazing at the waters that had brought about their salvation. In that moment the song of deliverance rose among them. A melody of praises echoed through the wilderness, celebrating the mighty hand of God. "Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods?" they sang, their voices laced with reverence and joy. And thus a covenant of trust was woven among them, a tapestry of faithfulness promising journey ahead. Yet a divine whisper stirred within the hearts of the faithful, urging them to remember not only their deliverance but the purpose that awaited them. What more could the Almighty do? What further wonders did he have in store for a people set apart? For indeed, the journey was only beginning, and hidden within the unfolding plan was a revelation yet to be realized. And it came to pass, in the aftermath of their deliverance, that the Israelites turned their hearts toward the wilderness, the vast expanse of their journey stretching out like a divine canvas awaiting the brush of their faith. They stood upon the shore, their feet planted firmly on the ground that had been sanctified by God's miraculous intervention. As they raised their voices in jubilant praise, Miriam, the prophetess, took her tambourine in hand. The sound of her joyous dance echoed among the people, her laughter weaving through the air like the sweet incense of worship. "Sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously," she declared, her spirit alight with the fire of divine inspiration. "The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea." The women joined her, their voices a harmonious chorus lifting higher, a symphony of redemption celebrating the faithfulness of the one who had delivered them from slavery. A sacred unity formed among them, igniting the dry and dusty air with a profound fervor that stirred the hearts of all who witnessed it. Yet as the music swelled, a heaviness hung upon the minds of the men, the weight of uncertainty creeping into their thoughts. Though they had walked through the sea, they still faced the wilderness, a land untamed and riddled with trials that loomed ahead. Whispers of anxiety blossomed among them, soft but persistent. "How shall we sustain ourselves in this barren land? Where are the fruits of the promise?" Moses, attuned to the murmurs of discontent, sought the face of the Lord. And God spoke into the void of their doubt, saying, "I have made a covenant with your ancestors, and I shall provide for you." With renewed courage, Moses stood before the people, his voice a beacon in the gathering twilight. "Remember the miracles, dear ones. The bread that rained down from heaven shall be your sustenance. Trust in the Lord your God, for his hand is mighty, and his faithfulness is unfailing." As the days passed, the sun beat down upon the camp, the people journeying deeper into the wilderness, where the lines of survival began to blur under the harsh reality of hunger and thirst. Their hearts grew faint once again, and they faltered in their trust. Were there not enough graves in Egypt, that we should die here? They lamented, as bitterness crept into their voices. Yet even in that dark hour, when their faith waned like the waning moon, the Lord spoke again with compassion. I will show you my glory. He instructed Moses to strike the rock at Horeb, and as he did, water burst forth with divine assurance, quenching the thirst of the multitude. The hearts of the Israelites were stirred by the command of the Lord. They tasted that provision and marveled at the supernatural fountain flowing from the solid stone. Their apprehensions were silenced, yet the memory of their trials lingered like shadows in their minds. What happens when the water runs dry? Days turned into weeks, and still the journey went on. God, knowing the trials that would come, led them by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, showing that he was always near, guiding them into his promise. Each moment of uncertainty drew them closer to him, as he caused them to depend wholly on his grace. Look how you have been brought forth from bondage. Moses reminded his people, let your hearts be steadfast. For every need you have, the Lord shall supply. In this holy tension between hope and despair, a deeper revelation began to unfold, a purpose hidden within adversity. For thus says the Lord, this wilderness shall not break you. It will forge you into a mighty nation. As they continued their journey, a thought began to blossom within the hearts of the people. What would lie ahead? What treasures of divine wisdom would they uncover in the heart of the wilderness? The journey was marked by trial, but still there remained a promise, glimmering in the distance, a land that awaited their arrival. And amidst their fears swelled a question, awe-inspiring and tremulous. In the depths of this wilderness, what transformative lessons would the Lord offer to his chosen people? What was the nature of the covenant that was to be fulfilled? A divine mystery hinted at the glory yet to be revealed. As they continued their sojourn through the barren wilderness, a stirring began to arise within the hearts of the Israelites. They stood on the precipice of something profound, an unfurling covenant that would guide their every step. The lessons of obedience, trust, and dependence upon their faithful God were etched deeply in their souls. As the days blended into weeks, and the sun kissed the horizon in fiery glory each evening, they learned to cherish the supernatural sustenance, the manna that drifted down like dew providing their daily bread. Moses, a humble servant yet resolute leader, guided them, filled with the presence of God, his heart attuned to the needs of his people. In their wanderings, he sought the face of the Lord, imploring for wisdom and strength, for the burdens of leadership grew heavier with the weight of discontent that often swept through the camp. Yet, each time doubt encroached, the Almighty would remind him of his covenant promises. Their journey was not aimless but purpose-driven. At last, they arrived at Mount Sinai, the mountain of God, where a divine encounter awaited. As they encamped beneath the ominous heights, the air filled with palpable anticipation, and a cloud descended, a majestic confirmation of God's presence among his people. Thunder rumbled like the voice of authority, and lightning danced with divine splendor. Moses ascended the mountain, drawn into the shadows of holiness, seeking the heart of God, the Creator who had set them free. In that sacred moment, God etched his commandments upon tablets of stone, guiding principles to shape a nation chosen not merely for freedom from bondage, but for community rooted in love, justice, and righteousness. You shall have no other gods before me, resounded through the mountainous crags, echoing a decree to sanctify their hearts. With every command, he wove a tapestry of identity for the Israelites, a blueprint for holy living that would endure through generations. Moses descended, radiant and transformed by the presence of the Lord. He stood before the people, bearing the words of their God like a tender gift. These commandments shall be your life, and in them you shall find your way. The people, though at times faltering, responded with fervent hearts. All that the Lord has spoken we will do. Yet in the echo of their vow lay the challenge of human frailty. In the face of trial, their faith wavered. Desires for quick fixes and idols took root as whispers spread of what once was in Egypt. Fearful of the unknown, they forged a golden calf, a bold act of rebellion against the God who had delivered them. When Moses returned, wrath mingled with righteous anger surged within him. He shattered the tablets, the covenant written in stone, as a lament for their disobedience. "Who is on the Lord's side?" he declared, as the remnants of faith clashed with the tide of idolatry. The tribe of Levi rallied to his side, upholding the sacred call of holiness. "Consecrate yourselves today to the Lord," Moses proclaimed, for the path of restoration lay before them. In time, the people repented, their hearts softened by the grace of the Almighty, reminding them of their first love, a God who had led them out of despair. Renewal came as God instructed Moses to carve anew the tablets. With mercy deeper than their rebellion, he reaffirmed his covenant, his compassion pursuing purity among his people. "I will be with you," he promised again, echoing through the valleys of their wandering as they journeyed onward. A tabernacle was constructed, a dwelling for the presence of God among them, a sign of his unfailing commitment. The glory of the Lord filled the space, guiding them in the day as a cloud and covering them in the night with fire upon the heights. And as they moved toward the land of promise, each step became a testimony to their faithfulness, a narrative of transformation where past failures blossomed into fortitude. God meticulously orchestrated each trial, each victory, until they stood on the threshold of Canaan, the land flowing with milk and honey, a promise fulfilled. When they finally crossed into their inheritance under Joshua's leadership, they remembered the journey, the pain, the lessons, the faithful God who had sought their hearts. The act of remembrance echoed throughout generations, recorded in scrolls both solemn and joyful. "The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace," echoed through their hearts, a permanent assurance of his everlasting love. Thus, the story of Moses and the Israelites stands as a powerful testament of God's faithfulness, his unwavering love, and the divine purpose woven through the tapestry of their lives. The wilderness was never just a passage. It was a profound spiritual journey, one that beckons us to press on in faith, trusting in the promises of God who calls each of us by name. As you reflect on this transformative journey, let it stir your spirit. We too are called forth from bondage into freedom, from uncertainty into assurance. Now, if you have felt the power of this story of redemption stirring in your heart, please do not wait another moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm and brighten someone's day. Comment your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story impacted your faith. Your words can inspire others. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't let this opportunity pass. Together we can reach more souls for Christ.